Where are you?
Hi guys, my name is Tiffany and welcome back to Upcycle by Little Toe, where I take old forgotten items and give them a new life. I'm gonna be doing a challenge video today where my friends get to pick out what I upcycle and I have absolutely no say in what they choose. This is my second attempt at a challenge video. The first was with my friend Ilda Mason, where she picked out a vest and I turned it into this corset top. I'm gonna link that down below if you guys wanna check that out. But in today's video, I've enlisted one of my favorite people, Liana Santa Ana. We work together on Broadway and she is a phenomenal singer. She just released an original song. I'm gonna link that down below. You guys have to listen to it. It is so good. So I took Liana thrifting a couple weeks ago and here is what she chose for me. This is my friend Liana, and today I am taking her thrifting because she is going to pick out what I'm going to upcycle. She is a singer-songwriter. You need to listen to her music, Broadway star, and the coolest kid/adult I know.
Oh, thank you so much.
I'm gonna give you $10 and you're going to pick out either one thing or multiple things that I have to turn into something new, but you can't spend more than $10.
Cool.
Let's do this.
Woo!
Okay, Liana, how much did you spend?
I spent $9.50. I have this. Oh, lovely.
I do love denim. Denim is very nice to work with.
So do
love
I.
denim.
And there's a lot of it.
Oh,
okay?
a lot. Oh,
lot of denim.
and embroidery.
Yeah. And then this one.
What is it?
It's like a
top?
top.
Okay.
Yeah. And then this is a statement.
You want me to mix these three things together?
Yes. Okay, but like it ties in. Look, there's red. There's red there.
These three things.
Yes. And you
Okay.
have fun mixing them.
So I'm really excited to make this into something, and you'll see what it is soon.
Yay. Bye.
Let's take a closer look at what Liana chose for me, starting off with the denim dress. This is 100% cotton and the fabric is pretty lightweight and not stiff at all. There is an embroidered trim along the center front of the dress as well as the sleeves. I'm really happy she chose this because there is a lot of fabric to work with. Next up is this green blouse. It has this really pretty blue embroidered flowers on it, and as you can tell, it's not a very flattering shape on me right now. But again, I have a decent amount of fabric to work with. Last thing she bought are these pants. These are massive on me and I do really like this print. However, I am having a lot of trouble envisioning these three items into one cohesive outfit. Normally, I would move on to the game plan at this point, but I don't currently have one. Okay, let's start off with the easiest piece from this challenge, which is the denim dress. So initially I was thinking of making a jumpsuit because there is a significant amount of fabric, but I don't think I have enough fabric to make pants, so I'm gonna try to turn this into a more flattering dress. I'm gonna be using two patterns from Mood Fabrics and I'm going to kind of modify them into one dress. I'm gonna link those down below. They are free and I'm gonna show you exactly how I modify them, so let's get right to it. This is the pattern I'll be using for the top of the dress. I like the look of the deep V, but the front two pieces of this pattern overlap and I don't want that for my dress, so I'll show you exactly how I modify it. I'll be using this pattern for the skirt. To download these patterns, just fill in the form with your name and email and it will be sent to you. Based on those two patterns, I'm going to try to make an overalls inspired dress. So Liana challenged me with three very different pieces and I'm having a really hard time trying to imagine them into one cohesive outfit. So I think the best route for me to take is to make separate pieces that I can layer and hopefully it works out. So let's get started with the dress. Here are the pattern pieces for the top printed out and taped together. I'll be using these as a guide to draft the pieces I need for the top of my dress. I'm going to start with the front side piece. I'll be using parchment paper to trace out the pattern and I'll be using the size 2 pattern as a guide. I trace out the bottom, side seam, princess seam, and shoulder seam of the original pattern. Here is the original armhole of the size 2 pattern. I don't want my shoulder seam to be as wide, so I'm drafting a narrower armhole. I also want my arm side to be slightly bigger, so I'm drafting my armhole a little lower along the side seam. As you can see here, the two modifications that I've made are at this point and this point. Now, add a 1/2 inch seam allowance around the entire pattern and cut. You should have something that looks like this. Moving on to the center front pattern piece. This line here indicates the center front. I want to use this side of the pattern, but not this side because this is the portion that overlaps. Based on my measurements, the total front of my waist should measure 14 inches. The bottom of my side front piece measures 4.5 inches, which means that the total width of my center front piece should measure 5 inches. I'll be cutting this piece on full, so I'll measure at 2.5 inches and make a mark. Draw a line, and this is the new center front line. Using parchment paper, trace out the bottom, center front line, princess seam, and shoulder seam. I want the width of my shoulder seams to match on both my front pieces, so I measure the shoulder seam of the side front pattern, which measures 1.5 inches, and mark where I want the new shoulder seam to end on my center front piece. Then, based on this new measurement, I draft a new neckline. Add a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around except on the center front since I'll be cutting this piece on fold. Cut and you should have something that looks like this. The front two pieces will be joined along this seam. Based on the look I was going for, I decided to make my shoulder seams a little narrower and to lower my neckline, so I went ahead and exaggerated the modifications a little more. Moving on to the back piece for the top of the dress. I'm not going to modify this too much, so I traced out the bottom, side seam, center back, as well as the darts following the size 2 pattern as a guide. Then, I traced the shoulder seam but marked a narrower one that matched the new combined shoulder seam width of my front pieces. I drafted a new armhole, making sure the side seam is lowered to match my front piece. I also lowered the neckline slightly. I'm adding seam allowance to the center back because I haven't decided if I want to install my zipper closure in the back or in the side. Continue to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around and cut. Here is what all of the pieces for the top of the dress should look like. Moving on to the skirt. Here is what the pattern from Mood Fabrics looks like printed out and taped together. I'm going to start with the front pattern piece for the skirt, and here is the center front line with no seam allowance because this piece is meant to be cut on fold. I want my skirt to be made out of 3 panels to match my top. From this point of the dart, I'm going to draw a line all the way down to the hem, creating a new seam. Starting with this left piece, I trace out the hem and this new seam. I want my skirt seams to line up with my top, so I use my side front top pattern to figure out how wide I need this side piece to be. I draft a new waistline matching the width from my top and use the original pattern to trace my side seam. Add a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around and cut. Here is the first skirt piece. For the center front piece, I'm going to repeat the same steps using the center front top pattern piece to determine the width of this piece. Based on that measurement, draw the center front line and waistline. Add a 1/2 inch seam allowance on all sides except for the center front and cut out your new pattern. Here are the pieces for the front of the skirt. Moving on to the back of the skirt. I'm repeating all of the same steps, tracing out the original pattern, but this time making sure to use my back top pattern piece to modify the placement of the center back, as well as the placement of the side seam to ensure that all the seams will line up with my top. Once the new pattern is drafted, add a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around and cut out the pattern. Here are all of the skirt pattern pieces. I just finished seam ripping the entire dress, and I just wanted to give a little shout out to the embroidered pieces. Unfortunately, I won't be using them in this upcycle. I think it's just gonna make the outfit too busy, but I'll be saving this for a different one. Here are the front pattern pieces for my dress. I went ahead and cut out what I needed from the denim, and this is what all of the front pieces should look like. I also went ahead and cut out a facing piece that I'll sew later to hide the raw edge of the neckline. Here are the back pattern pieces laid out, and here is what the denim pieces look like cut out. I forgot to film this, but I also cut out a facing piece for the back neckline. I decided that I'll add the zipper closure to this side seam. All of my dress pieces are ready to be sewn together, but I'm just looking at it right now and I really hate the color of this denim. So this is the original color of the dress, and to me, it just looks super dated, so I decided to take a little piece of it and put it in a bleach bath, and this is how it turned out, and I like this so much better, so I'm gonna go ahead and bleach all of these pieces. I have a bucket of warm water here, and I'm just adding some bleach. I'm giving it a good mix, and then I'm adding my denim pieces that I've already soaked in water to try to achieve an even bleach. I've decided to go with a color block dress, so I'm only bleaching half of the denim pieces for now. Give this a good stir and let the denim soak in the bleach bath. It's been about 30 minutes and the color has lifted significantly, so I'm going to add the rest of my denim pieces into the bleach bath now. I'm gonna let this sit for another 30 minutes. I've washed and dried my denim pieces, and here is what it looks like now. I am so happy with the darker color, but as you can see here, my lighter pieces have some very obvious bleach spots, and the coloring is so uneven here, which kind of makes it look like a mistake. So I'm going to use a tie-dye technique to try to exaggerate this discoloration and make it look a little more intentional. Using rubber bands, I scrunch up the denim pieces and secure them tightly. Then I place them into a bucket and spray a mixture of bleach and water. I'm gonna let this sit for about 15 minutes. So I just got bleach pieces 2.0 out of the dryer, and this is how it turned out. I am so much happier with the way these look, so let's start putting the dress together. I've gone ahead and sewn my front skirt pieces together. This is what it looks like on the wrong side. As you can see here, I've left this part unsewn because I'm still deciding if I want there to be slits here. I've also sewn the front top pieces together, and here is what it looks like on the wrong side. Now I'm going to place these two pieces right side spacing along the waist, making sure that all of the seams line up perfectly, and then pin to secure. Now I'm going to sew these pieces together. This is what it should look like sewn together. Look at those sexy seams. Moving on to the back. I've gone ahead and sewn the darts for the top and the skirt, and now I'm placing them right side spacing along the waistline, making sure that the darts line up. Pin and sew to secure. After sewing, this is what your back piece should look like. Place the front piece right side spacing and pin and sew along the shoulder seams. I've sewn the shoulder seams together, and now I'm going to add the facing. Place the two pieces right side spacing and pin to secure. Sew around the entire neckline with a straight stitch. This is what it should look like now. Make a little notch right above the seam at the V so that the garment will lay flat when the facing is tucked under. Tuck the facing in, hiding the raw edge of the neckline, and now I'm going to stay stitch the facing to the seam allowance. I've pressed my neckline, and now I can finish sewing the rest of the dress. I'm going to sew the right side seams together and insert this invisible zipper to the left side. Okay, so I have the zipper installed and I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. These seams are lining up perfectly. I want to show you guys the skirt. Here is the skirt. It's gaping a little bit here, but I'm hoping that once I finish the armholes, it will fix the problem. And I'm gonna be using some single fold bias tape to just cover up all of these raw edges. I've gone ahead and finished the armholes with bias tape, and I've also hemmed the dress, leaving these two little slits. Okay, new day, new challenge. I finished sewing the dress last night, and I just wanted to give you guys a closer look at the finished armhole. That's what it looks like on the outside, and this is what it looks like on the inside with the bias tape. It is so neat and it's so nice. I'm so happy with how it turned out. So the gaping thing was still happening on the side, so I just sewed a little dart and that fixed the problem. Now that this is done, let's move on to the top. So I'm still not sure what I'm gonna do with this quite yet, but I do know I wanna make it some sort of cropped blouse. So I'm gonna go ahead and seam rip this and then we'll see where it goes. I started by removing the buttons as well as these ties that were attached to the cuff of the sleeves. Then I went ahead and seam ripped the entire blouse apart because at this point I honestly still had absolutely no clue what I was gonna do. I finally came up with something, so let's get started. This is the left front piece of the blouse placed wrong sides up. I start by drawing a new side seam about an inch from the original. Then, I adjusted the armhole and lowered it slightly. Using the armhole as a guide, I measure and mark at 3 inches to create the look of a thick strap. From the shoulder seam, I measure and mark at 7 inches. I'm going for a square neckline, so from that point, I draw a horizontal line. Since I want a cropped blouse, I identified the waist of the original blouse and draw a line for the new hem. I cut out this piece, leaving a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Then I cut out a mirrored piece. Moving on to the back, I start out by folding my piece in half along the center back since I will be cutting this on fold. I'm going to use my front piece as a guide to draft out the back, so I'm just laying it on top of the back piece with the center front hanging over the center back about 2 inches. Then I draft a new armhole that's slightly wider than the armhole in the front and trace out the side seams, the hem, as well as the shoulder seam. I also drafted a new lower neckline. Using my ruler, I cleaned up the hem and the side seam. Then I used some pins to ensure the fabric wouldn't shift as I was cutting. Cut with no seam allowance. I'm gonna start by assembling the front. I place my 2 front pieces right side spacing and pin together along the center front. So leaving a 3/4 inch seam allowance. I've pressed my seam open and this is what it looks like now. The reason I left such a big seam allowance is because I'm going to sew 2 straight stitches along either side of the original seam to create 2 channels. If you're following along and are confused as to what I'm doing, I have an idea in my head. I'm not actually sure if it's gonna work, but in my head it works. So I'm just gonna try it and hope that it actually works out. I've pinned the front and back pieces together here and I'm just trying it on to see if I need to make any modifications. It was a little bit big, so I decided to take this off of the front piece and these pieces off of the back. I've pinned my front and back pieces together and sewed them along the side seams and shoulder seams. I did have to seam rip the bottom part of these channels and the center seam that I sewed earlier because I realized that for my channels to work, I have to hem the top first. I'm going to fold the hem over twice and then sew all the way around. Here is a close-up of my hem top, and as you can see here, now I have 2 functioning channels. I've gone ahead and inserted one of the ties that I saved earlier into this channel. I've attached a safety pin to this other tie and I'm going to feed it through the other channel. Using a straight stitch, I'll secure the ties to the top. Once the ties are sewed in place, cut off the excess on the top. Just like the dress, I've made a facing piece to finish the neckline. Place the pieces right side spacing and pin and then sew. I've gone ahead and sewed the facing to the top, and I also stitched the facing to the seam allowance like I did for the dress, and then I gave everything a good press so that it's laying nice and flat. And now it's time to test my idea and see if it will work. So what I had planned was to basically scrunch this up. That's actually not too bad. I'm pretty happy with this. I might add elastic in the back just to make it a little tighter like that, because I can't make this top any smaller, otherwise I won't be able to get it on and off without sewing some sort of zipper closure, and I don't want to do that. So I think I might do a little bit of elastic in the back. That's pretty cute. I've gone ahead and inserted the elastic in the back. I didn't want to have to seam rip the entire hem, so I seam ripped a little hole here, and then used the hem as a channel for this elastic string that I inserted with a loop turner. I inserted the elastic from this seam to this seam, secured with a straight stitch, and then sewed the holes that I made in the hem. Moving on to the sleeves. Here is the original sleeve. I cut off a little bit from the bottom as well as the top. Do the same for the other sleeve. Starting with the first sleeve, I'm going to sew a basting stitch from this point to this point. Here are the tails of my basting stitch. Now I'm going to hem the sleeve by folding over twice and then sewing, but I'm going to leave a 1-inch hole so I can insert my elastic later. Using a safety pin, insert the elastic through the channel and then tie the loose ends into a knot. Then sew this hole shut. I've gone ahead and pinned most of the sleeve to the top except for the section with the basting stitch. I'm going to pull on the loose thread, creating gathers until the length of the sleeve matches the length of the armhole. Here is the sleeve completely pinned to the top. Sew and it should look something like this. Add the other sleeve, and here is the completed top. Liana, I thought we were friends. What am I supposed to do with this? I think what I'm gonna do is use the leftover fabric from the denim dress to make a little denim pouch clutch thing that I can wear with the dress and the blouse. And I'm going to use this as a little accent on it. Okay, it's the last part of the challenge, so let's get right to it. I cut out 2 rectangles that I've bleached to match the dress. I'm going to use heat and bond to attach the fabric from the pants onto this piece. I printed out a flipped version of the word little toe and then traced it onto the heat and bond. Then I placed it on the fabric and ironed it in place. Cut, and you should have something that looks like this. In case you were wondering, my username is Little Toe because my last name is Toe and I'm the youngest in my family. Peel the paper backing and place it onto the denim piece. Iron it on and it should look like this. As you can see here, I changed my mind and thought it looked better on the plain piece of denim. For added security, I decided to top stitch this down, but this took me almost 2 hours. Now that I've officially incorporated all of the challenge items, I cut out 2 more rectangles from the leftover fabric from the blouse to use as my lining. I'll also be using this zipper that is the same width as all of my pieces. I have my lining piece right sides up, and I'm going to lay my zipper along the top, making sure it's also right sides up. Then I place my denim piece right sides down, sandwiching the zipper along the top. Pin and then sew to secure. This is what it should look like now. Repeat these steps, making sure the second lining piece is placed right sides up, then place the zipper along the top, again making sure it's right sides up. Place the second denim piece right sides down and pin to secure. Sew, and we are almost done. This is what it should look like now. Make sure you open the zipper. This is really important. Now I'm placing my denim pieces right sides facing and my lining pieces right sides facing and adjusting the zipper so it lays flat. I'm going to sew from this point all the way around to this point, leaving an opening about 4 inches wide. From the opening, flip the bag to the right side and sew the opening shut. Once you've sewn the opening shut, tuck in the lining and you are all done. This is what the inside should look like. I cannot wait to show this to Liana. Hi, Liana!
Hi.
Okay, so before I show you what I've done, I want you to tell everybody where you can find your amazing song, Floating, because it's
Well, it's on Spotify. It's on a lot of platforms, actually. I'm pretty sure it's on Spotify and Apple Music and Pandora, etc.
You can send me a link and I'll put it in the description box so people can check it out if they want. Before I show you what it is now, do you remember what you got?
Yes, I do. I bought a denim dress and this like green shirt blouse thing, and then I bought a pair of pants. The pants are the wacky pattern.
Oh, are you ready to see what those things have become?
I'm so ready.
I'm gonna show you. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
But it's now.
So cute! Look at the color blocking. Oh my gosh! It's so cute.
I gotta show you how I use your wacky fabric.
Okay.
Made a little like clutch to go with, you know, it's like matching
Yes. Mm-hmm.
my dress.
Yes.
I'll put the wacky fabric in the back.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but that's such a nice pop.
Now I'm gonna show you what it looks like on its own. This is what the dress looks like on its own.
Cute. Cute. It's such a cute summer piece. Oh my god, that is so cute.
Looks like.
That is so cute. Oh my god. Like, it's so cute. Like, I want one, you know?
Maybe you'll get one for your birthday.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was all of your challenge items.
Oh my god, it's so cute. You did so well with it.
Thank you so much for playing.
Yeah.
That
This was so much
That
fun.
was a challenge. And everybody, please listen to her song.
Yay.
Okay, bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Let's take a closer look at the completed outfit. I am so happy with how this turned out, and even though it looks good together, I actually prefer it worn separately. Here is the dress on its own. I am so glad I bleached it, and I love this color blocking. My favorite piece though is this blouse. I cannot believe how cute it turned out. I'm definitely going to be wearing this a lot this spring. Last but not least, the denim clutch. I can't wait to wear this with the denim dress or even use it as a little organizer to put in a larger purse. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you guys want to see more challenge videos. I personally had so much fun with this one because Liana picked out some things that I would never have bought, and it really challenged me to be more creative. If you guys want to see more photos of the full outfit, make sure to follow me on Instagram at Little Toe. If you liked this video, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Please let me know in the comments if you want to see more thrift flip challenge videos, and as always, thank you so much for watching.